In our world, anything we want is just a click away. Love spans continents, careers morph with trends, and desires are endlessly indulged. Our minds are on the edge and vulnerable. The temptation of infinite choice constantly increases our fear of missing out. Standing at the entrance of a maze of endless possibility, a darker question appears. Have I become a prisoner of my own desires? It took years to find an answer. Many of us never realize the mental biases I'm about to reveal, identifying their mistakes once too much time has passed. But here, I will reveal to you the mistakes in chasing every shimmering opportunity. How mental biases develop inside us, causing fear of missing out, cloutchasing, grassisgreener mentality, and the like, and how I identify a restless mind from a rational one. Once you understand how these biases build inside you over years and years, I'll share with you my ultimate secret, mastering the art of taming these biases. So then when you do pursue an opportunity, you make the most of it. What lies ahead might just change your life. It did for me. All that glitters is not gold. These words were echoed by my parents and my mentors. I always brushed it off. I thought it was a cliche. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. I'd nod, believe I understood what they meant, and I'd proceed with my life, thinking that it was just someone who didn't understand what I was thinking, didn't understand the experience I was going through. The modern slang for these ideas, it's turned into fear of missing out or clout chasing, but they all kind of mean the same thing. But what I didn't know is that these simple sayings, regardless of which one you choose, beneath them is a complex set of mental biases that prevents our ability to think clearly. What these group of expressions are trying to say is that our mind can play a creative little trick on us. We often imagine only the good things about what we wish for, and we highlight the negatives about our current situation. And at the same time, we ignore the negatives of what we wish for, all the potential downsides, and we don't look at what is good about our trajectory right now. Like in the movie Click, Adam Sandler, he gets a magic remote that lets him skip the boring parts of his life. He overvalues the future, wanting to jump to more exciting time. He doesn't appreciate the present. This leads him to fast forward through his entire life. Blinded by the temptation of what could be, we chase dreams recklessly, oblivious to the steep costs of these pursuits and also oblivious to the hidden treasures of the current path we were on. But I discovered that the grass is greener mentality, shiny object syndrome, fear of missing out, clout chasing, all of these things, they don't just come out of nowhere. They sprout from fundamental mental biases that are like seeds, planted quietly, growing steadily beneath the surface of our awareness, until they expose themselves one day. And that is the day where we have a negative, temporary interpretation of our life. That's the day all those mental biases will bloom. First among these biases is something called social comparison. We measure ourselves against those who seem more successful than us. But in doing so, we inadvertently grade our worth against theirs. And in this biased evaluation, we often find ourselves lacking. And this realization, it quietly erodes our self-esteem. The moment a Ferrari zooms past, or you catch a glimpse of an influencer basking in the French Riviera, and suddenly you're engulfed in a wave of inadequacy for the rest of the day. That is social comparison in action. But little did I know actually how impactful social comparison has become. In 2010, social media started taking the world by storm, but in its wake, there was a startling surge of anxiety and self-harm hospital admissions amongst teens and preteens. This is presumably because of social comparison. Social comparison fuels fears like fear of missing out by convincing us that we need dramatic changes to match others' success. When these changes seem out of reach, we may give up in the most extreme of ways. Next is optimism bias. In the theater of our minds, we often wander through a fantasy land full of perfect outcomes, convinced that we're immune to the common pitfalls that ensnare others, as if by some stroke of luck we're the exception to life's rules. Optimism bias encourages fear of missing out because it makes us think that chasing something new is a path that's lined only with roses, making it easy for us to leap towards change. In an internet age full of smooth talking, confident confidence men and get-rich-quick schemes. This bias only intensifies. Even if we dodge these deceptive traps, our minds become addicted to the illusion of instant success. And when swift success eludes us, we become convinced very quickly that this just must not be for us. We should do something different. But a third bias enhances optimism bias even more. It's called recency bias. This leads us to magnify the importance of our latest experiences. For example, when the public finds out someone has won a huge jackpot, they too start flowing into the casino. This is recency bias at work. We think the most recent event is likely to happen again, even if the events are completely unrelated. But I didn't realize that this phenomenon, recency bias, it happens with negative events also. Recent setbacks have a unique way of overshadowing our successes and nudging us closer and closer towards uncharted opportunities. We want to run away from the pain. What do you think? Do people typically walk away from an opportunity the day that they win or the day that they lose? Even knowing these three biases, optimism, recency, social comparison, the fourth and the main driver of fear of missing out, it eluded me until recently. Enter the paradox of choice, where abundant options don't liberate us, but bind us. With a sea of choices at our fingertips, even after we make one, we're haunted by the nagging question, did we make the right decision? This paradox traps us in a cycle of perpetual doubt, overshadowing our satisfaction with endless what-ifs. Modern technology plays its part in this intricate dance, bombarding us with a constant stream of stimuli through our devices, each ping and buzz a drip of dopamine. Yet this dopamine rush, it's absent during a struggle or tension that we face. It's the resolution, the fresh and thrilling starts that summon dopamine. So we become dopamine chasers, hooked on the high of new beginnings and increasingly resistant to the inevitable pains. So remember these four horsemen. You have optimism bias, recency bias, social comparison bias, and paradox of choice. These are the ones that are feeding your fear of missing out. They're feeding your grass is greener mentality, your clout chasing. They reveal themselves on our absolute worst day, when we're feeling like absolute trash about ourselves and where we're headed, and we're feeling the most jealous about where other people are headed. And to escape this feeling, a feeling of despair about where we are, we're attracted like moths to a light when we see a new opportunity. We chase after it. We run away from our disappointments as fast as we can into the arms of something new, a new opportunity. But change in itself isn't the villain. Sometimes it's a necessary hero, but our biases can twist its path, leading us astray from our true goals. Like Ryan Gosling's character in La La Land, who shelves his dream of a jazz club for a band's steady gig, hoping to bolster his relationship. Ironically, this very decision, fueled by the lure of stability, fractures his relationship due to the constant travel. You might think that failure is inevitable and that we must learn from our mistakes, and you're right, but time is a finite resource and we are not immortal. The grass is greener, fear of missing out, and similar mentalities propel us into a whirlwind of decision hopping from one idea to the next, each time paying a hidden price. They say mastery requires 10,000 hours. Whether that's literal or figurative, this constant shifting ensures we'll never reach that pinnacle. We never linger long enough in one pursuit to excel or push through failure. This breeds a vicious cycle. In our deepest dissatisfaction, we grasp for quick fixes, making stress, vulnerable choices without full consideration. We begin pursuit number 2 unexamined. Round and round we go, and with each cycle, time slips by. And as we age, options narrow. Depression and anxiety looms even closer as we face the daunting task of starting over yet again. I began to realize that the key to breaking fear of missing out, clout chasing, was to realize when they are starting to approach. Where is my mind at right now? Is it rational or is it slipping into the irrational? I've noticed the telltale signs in my own behavior, and I'll share them with you here. If I'm daydreaming of drastically different life scenarios all at the same time, let's say one day I'll be searching up van life adventures, the next day I'll be looking at what I can afford in New York City. When these fantasies flood my mind all all at once, I know I'm not thinking clearly. I haven't given any of these paths the deep thought that they deserve. Complaining is another huge red flag. It's often a precursor to seeking something new. And I'm probably just disgruntled at something that happened recently. I also take notice when I start rushing into decisions without considering the downside. It's a hallmark of my impulsivity. If it starts happening with smaller decisions, then my impulsive choice tends to escalate to life-altering ones. Recognizing these patterns is crucial to avoiding hasty, regrettable choices. But there's more to my strategy than just recognizing these signs. In fact, the real question is, once these patterns are recognized, where do we go from there? How do we snap out of it? And more importantly, what steps can we take to prevent their onset in the first place? My turning point was grounding myself in gratitude and long-term thinking. These two thought processes prevent fear of missing out, grass is greener from approaching. This has been revolutionary for me, and I operationalize it in a few different ways. For gratitude, I journal. Not often, probably once or twice per week on average, but these occasional journal entries, sprinkled with appreciation of the present and reflections on my progress, those anchor me. I use aphorisms like find joy here, comparison steals happiness, and count your blessings that remind me of the contentment available in my current moment. It might be grim for some, but I also remember that I could be gone at any moment. If I'm cranky or upset, I'll try to remind myself that this very moment, it might be the last time I see someone. And to lift my spirits, I try to find things that make me smile. Looking up a funny animal video, watching a stand-up comedy show, or I'll dive into an episode of Love on the Spectrum. The show's characters with their unfiltered, genuine perspectives on life. They offer me a refreshing outlook that I find inspiring. Their pure, untainted approach to the world, it's like a breath of fresh air. And then for long-term thinking, I go back to the journal and remember phrases like patience breeds success and slow and steady, reinforcing the value of persistence and focus. These principles guide my decision making, ensuring that any changes I pursue, they must align with my long-term vision. But aphorisms and journaling, those things only take you so far. So I've set up systems that prevent me from jumping from choice to choice. How do I do it? The first standard operating procedure I have is setting aside time to think about my life's biggest questions. First, my daily practices, I'll spend 10 minutes in the morning brainstorming on what I want in my life. I use a legal pad and just brainstorm ideas. It's stream of consciousness. Then about every 3 months or so, I carve out a day for a retreat to the beach. Beforehand, I pin down my life's pressing questions and the struggles I'm facing. I get there by 8 a.m. or so and find myself a secluded corner of the beach, armed with nothing but a chair, a towel, and something to write with. There, amongst the rhythm of the waves, I delve into these questions, letting thoughts flow freely until the early afternoon. There's no set time frame, but usually by 2 p.m. or so, I often unearth insights that guide my path forward. How often do you ponder your life's biggest questions? Dedicating time to these reflections is like sifting gold from sand. It helps you clarify what you actually want. I also meditate, not very often, maybe once or twice a week. I sit in the quiet, usually in the morning, before or after my journal. I close my eyes and I think about the breath going right up toward my third eye, right above your eyes, in the middle of your forehead. It relaxes my mind, my face, my body, and gives me time to clear off the dust and dirt that accumulates on my soul. Alongside my reflective beach getaways, I chart a detailed map of my life's dreams, penciling in everything. I dive into the specifics, the yearly earnings I aim for, frequency of date nights with my fiance, hours I reserve for hobbies, and the rhythm of my YouTube videos. It's about fine-tuning the inputs. Tracking progress shows me how far I've come. Just like we measure our progress in the gym, I do the same throughout my other pursuits in life. This practice isn't just about monitoring growth, it's a compass. My last trick is I occasionally detox from social media. Sometimes going to the extent of deleting my accounts every year and a half or so. For me, if my curated feeds are getting toxic, then I know it's about time to take a break. Inevitably, I have to set up a new account, add back all my friends, which I'm sure they love, but this break not only calms my thoughts, but it also frees up my time. So there you have it. You have to remember that setbacks are inevitable, but they often invoke impulsive decisions. The key is not to quit on a bad day and avoid choices that are made out of frustration. Wait until a good day. Wait until a day where you have success, and then think to yourself, is this pursuit actually giving me joy? You'll make better choices when your mind is completely clear, when it's calm, when it's happy. Chasing dreams is essential, but the true challenge lies in staying the course, even when you stumble. I hope some of those tips helped you out in preventing fear of missing out, grass is greener, and the like. Thank you for watching Mr. Mind Game, where we learn to think better.